Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Bravo 22 and our YouTube channel, all made possible by the Royal British Legion and the Drive Project. My name is Dan Phillips, and I've been a member of Bravo 22 for about 5 years now, and I've never looked back. I've taken part in art skills courses and in workshops in basic drawing, in ancient map making, in voice training, and even sculpture. I've done that all alongside other wounded, injured and sick service personnel and their families, and I've loved absolutely every second of it. And there's loads of different courses that are running that I can't wait to take part in the future. So I'd like to encourage all of your military friends and family to subscribe to this channel and to like and share on Facebook about Bravo 22. And don't forget to ask questions throughout this chat, and I'll endeavour to answer as many as I can in the time that we have. Now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to our guest, Gary Andrews, the absolute living legend of a person. Now, Gary he's also known as Gary Scribbler on social media. Now, Gary has had an illustrious career as an illustrator, an actor, a screenwriter, a cinematographer. He's been an art and a film director and an animator, and he's even worked with Disney. Gary's worked on such things as Rupert and the Frog Song. You'll all remember the bum, 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 and that's all I'm going to sing. You can't make me sing anymore. And also, Hey God, Horrible commercials throughout the 80s with the Skull, horribly good lager, which were amazing. He's also worked on Fern Gully, The Last Rainforest. He's worked on Fireman Sam, Horrid Henry, DuckTales the movie, and We're Going on a Bear Hunt, just to name a few. So Gary is also well known for his Doodle A Day, which he started sharing on social media from 2016. Now, with this Doodle A Day and Gary's positive outlook on life through extremely tough times, Gary has managed to help thousands of people around the world. So he's an inspiration to us all. So I'd like to introduce you to Gary. So hello, Gary. How are you? And how have you, Lily and Ben, been through lockdown?
Hello, Dan. Really nice to meet you, mate. Yeah, thank you. Well, that was a sort of suitably blush-making introduction, but thank you for that. Yeah, we're good, thanks. Been homeschooling. They've just gone back to school. Lily goes back to school today, in fact, in about an hour. But we're fine. We've just sort of kept it entertaining for ourselves, tried to do lots of little family activities and stuff. We're lucky we've got a garden. So yeah, we're all right. Doing a bit of keep fit, all that sort of thing.
Yeah, I would you, in fact, whilst we're talking about lockdown, would you be able to pass on to Lily and Ben that let them know that I absolutely love their lockdown movies that you made with them? They are incredible. So anybody who hasn't seen it, if you were to go onto YouTube and search for the Lockdown movie by Gary Scribbler, or there is a link down below to Gary's YouTube page, you'll be able to watch the videos, the lockdown movies on there. You really have to watch them.
They were great fun. It was something I decided to do something that we could do at weekends. They both like a bit of acting, a bit of dressing up. So we wrote these little films that was only supposed to be one, and then people said, "What happened? Do another?" And it turned into a trilogy, which then at Christmas, there was a Christmas special as well. And they were just a bit of fun to do at weekends, and then sort of edit and put together, partly to sort of give them something to look back on when all this is over, to say, okay, it was a weird time, but we did some fun stuff during it, so that was really what it was about. I absolutely love how you've inspired their imagination and their creativity. It's absolutely incredible. We've even got our own master yoga here. Yes, I was going to get my one of that. For those people, when they actually see the film, they'll understand what that strange real moment is all about.
They have to watch it. Right, without further ado, so I need to obviously get into a bit more serious stuff. Actually, first off, I want to say that I am absolutely gutted that I've only got 30 minutes with you today. It's nowhere near enough. But right, so let's start at the beginning of your career. So what kind of inspired you to get into a career in art, and where did it start from, and did you have any challenges from the outset?
Well, I mean, I've always drawn ever since I was a little kid. My parents told me that I could hold a pencil before I could walk, so my dad used to notice that I was quite good at mark making, and that when I would draw stuff, even as a tiny child, it looked like what it was supposed to look like. So they encouraged it. So for me, it was a natural ability that was there, if you like. So it was kind of always a foregone conclusion that I would do art, whatever that meant. And after I left school, I went to art college, studied illustration, but I used to like making movies, and I wasn't allowed to make movies, but they had an animation rostrum, so I could make animated films, which was, drawing and movies at the same time. So I did that, and then when I left college, I sort of went around studios thinking, oh, maybe I'll do a bit of design work for people, and I kind of fell into animation. So I did a week on Rupert and the Frog Song, as you mentioned, in betweening Firefly's bottoms. And then I went into a studio and they liked my stuff. And the guy said, do you want to sit in for 3 weeks while somebody's off at hospital? And I said, yeah, great. And that 3 weeks turned into 3.5 years working in that studio. And that's where I did the Hagar stuff and all that with the skull. So I sort of learned on the job and realized I had a affinity for it. So I sort of fell into the animation in that way. Challenge-wise, just really about just sort of finding your own style and getting the work. But I was very lucky to be working in animation in the late 80s, and it was a really vibrant scene at that time, So it was a really, really good time to be coming out of college. Yeah.
Have you got any favourite works that you've done throughout your career at all? Anything?
Oh, crikey. Well, I mean, I loved working on Fireman Sam. Fireman Sam was a fantastic. I was working on that about 12 years as director.
In Pontypandy.
In Pontypandy, yeah, which means the bridge by the fulling mill. That's what that means.
I did.
But the most ongoing job, which is a really fun one to do, is I do some stuff for Private Eye. I illustrate a thing called Air of Sorrows in Private Eye, which is a sort of pastiche romantic fiction that's been going for like 35 years or something. And I got called in to do a couple at the beginning, and I've been doing them ever since. It's always Charles and Camilla these days cropping up. I mean, back in the day, it used to be Charles and Di. Sometimes it's Murdoch. We have some stuff about him as well. But yeah, they're good fun to do. I've just been very lucky. Every single job that I do is interesting. I sort of sit here sometimes, and if I'm having a bad day, a bad drawing day, I sort of give myself a bit of a slap and think, listen, baby, you're drawing for a living, just think about what you could be doing, and then I sort of stop being a moany Myrtle and get on with it. Yeah, no, it's great. It's just
I'm sure Ben and Lily won't agree with that one.
Yeah.
Right. Has there been anyone in particular that has inspired you at all? I mean, I know that you've got a love of Shakespeare.
Yeah, I'm Shakespeare informs pretty much every part of my life. I mean, from art to drama to just everyday sort of. He had an answer for everything, which is fantastic. And there's always a quote to find something, so that's brilliant. In terms of art, I'm inspired by older illustrators. I'm inspired by people like Ernest Shepard, who illustrated Winnie the Pooh and Wind in the Willows. I love Arthur Rackham. I used to love the work of Uderzo, who illustrated Asterix and stuff like that. And as a kid, I used to copy their drawings, and that led me into discovering my own style. So I guess, art-wise, they're huge inspirations. But yes, I mean, the passion is Shakespeare, certainly.
Didn't you work on Toad of Wind in the Willows as well?
I did. There was an animated Wind in the Willows. Rick Mayall did the voice for Toad, and I was lucky enough to animate the big song sequence at the end when he's singing the song. And then in the sequel, Willows in Winter, there was a drunk scene on a balcony, so I got to animate him again, which was that was great fun. I mean, that was really lovely. The voice was a gift. He was such a great voice performer that it was because the voice is recorded first, and then you animate to that, so where all the stresses and stuff are. And
oh wow,
yeah, so that was really good fun.
Yeah. But yeah, with your love of Shakespeare, I admit that I didn't particularly pay the most of attention at school, as I should have done. I didn't really know much about Shakespeare, and then when I've read him, it kind of seemed a bit sort of gobbledygook to me. But I was very lucky to take part in a workshop with Patsy Rodenberg through Bravo 22, and we did voice training through that. And she really kind of illuminated some of the sonnets that he had made. And I've found a love for it, and I really would like to learn more about it.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, it's fantastic. And it is. And once you just get that hook, then it opens it up, and suddenly you realize it's not a mystery.
Now you can. Exactly. Then can understand. We've had a question come in from Emily Jane, and she says, what drawing exercise would you recommend for somebody who hasn't picked up a pencil in a while?
Brilliant question. Well, I mean, the basic thing is draw every day, and draw what comes from your imagination or what you can see. Just literally don't let a day go by when you don't pick up a pencil. Just draw. And it doesn't matter if the drawing isn't what you might think is a good drawing, because every drawing is a step on a learning curve. You're not drawing for other people, you're drawing for yourself or whatever. So just draw every day and look at stuff and try and draw it, or look at a thing, then try and remember it and draw it. But basically just the repetition of actually physically drawing is the thing, which is how I got into the Doodle A Day stuff. You know, that was, for me, it was a drawing exercise for myself, because all my work is digital. I wanted to do something where I was drawing every day with a pen on paper. So I started doing a visual diary that I kept every night before going to bed. And I would use what happened today as a thing that I could use as an inspiration for that drawing. So in fact, the whole Doodle A Day diary thing started as a drawing exercise for me.
Yeah, with that, I mean, I've been learning about storytelling myself, and some of the tips that I've heard about is to write down one moment throughout your day that you would want to remember, like you know, some of your Doodle A Days, which we'll talk about in a bit, and you know, that kind of, it's exactly the same as that, but just drawing it.
Exactly, it's exactly the same thing. And I actually keep a little notebook. I mean, I keep notes in the back of my phone. Like if something happens in the day, I'll quickly jot it down on a note in there, just in case come that evening it might have gone or whatever. So I've got these little memories, and I can look when I sit down at night and go, oh yes, that's what I really want to sort of, you know, memorize and sort of memorialize for today. And so I'll draw that. But yes, keeping those little memory reminders are really useful, definitely.
Yeah, sometimes I personally have trouble where I want to do a Doodle A Day. I'll get the paper out and I'll get the pencil out and I've got my rubber and I'm ready to go, and I don't know where to start.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're not alone, mate. I mean, and one thing I would say to you in that when you said that is throw the rubber away. Don't use that. But sometimes for me, I'm lucky. Drawing comes naturally, so the drawing bit is really easy. But I've been known to sit there for like nearly an hour thinking, what is the thing? But that hour of thinking is it's a moment of contemplation. It's a mindfulness moment. You are going back over your day, you're replaying, and for me that is the most important part about the process, is the mindfulness element of it. And then for me, luckily, the drawing bit comes easy, but that's, you know, so the sitting there going, oh, I don't know what to do, that, believe me, you're not alone. I last night I sat there for ages, and then I suddenly remembered I've got these new trousers, and it became a doodle about trousers. But I mean,
yes, rock climbing.
You know, but that was after sitting there for half an hour going, I just don't know, nothing happened. Especially with lockdown, I'm not going anywhere or meeting, so you're sitting at home every day. It's like Groundhog Day. So sometimes it's been quite challenging to think of something during this. But then the flip side is you're thinking a lot. So actually, some of the more sort of contemplative pictures have come through during lockdown, I guess.
Yeah, I can imagine that being tough. But luckily, you've got two incredible children that can help inspire your Doodles A Day. Certainly with Ben's antics.
He inspires the comedy, certainly.
What advice would you give somebody who would like to follow a similar career path to yourself?
Oh my gosh. Well, perseverance is an incredible thing. I mean, the big difficulty today compared to when I started in the dark ages. You know, it's like the world is very different to what it was then. But I think you can follow the same principle. I mean, back in my day, I knocked on a lot of doors, physically knocked on a lot of doors. These days, you're knocking on virtual doors, even without lockdown. You know, it's all about messaging. But don't be put off. Follow your dream. Follow what you want to do, what the passion that you have, and just persevere. If you're really lucky, you'll get an answer quickly. But not everybody does. You know, I mean, it's kissing a lot of frogs before you find the prince. You know, it's that sort of thing. It's just plug away at it and have a confidence in your belief that it's something you want to do. Yeah, we've just had a question in from Sally Ann, and she says, how did Gary find the shift from pencil to digital drawing? I guess obviously on a tablet. Yeah, well, I'm not too bad actually, because I use a thing called a Cintiq tablet, which is basically a TV that you can draw on. It's like digital paper. So, I mean, in the early days before those, I would do the drawing part on paper, then scan it and color it in the computer because it was less specific. These days, it's got so much more sophisticated with the tablets and the pens and stuff like that, that actually some of the programs are so lifelike to work with, that it's really not that different. And you've got an undo button, which is great, which is handy, and you're working in layers. But I used to work on a light box, on several bits of paper to sort of create things. Now you're working in layers. So I use a thing called Sketchbook, which is a fantastic bit of software, and it feels just like real pencils. So it was a fairly smooth transition, because at the end of the day, you're still just drawing. I'm not creating drawings with a mouse and in vectors. I actually physically draw. So yeah, it wasn't too bad.
Yeah. I remember watching one of your videos on your YouTube channel, and you're saying using the brush on there on the tablet was just like using a watercolor brush as it was going
absolutely. They're pressure sensitive and everything. It's fantastic. I mean, there's really no difference, so it's great.
Yeah. I've really got to get one of my own. Really need to. I've got one of those drawing tablets where you draw on the tablet, and it's separate from.
You're looking up at the screen, yeah, and that's fine. But the hand-eye coordination's hard, yeah.
That's exactly what I'm struggling with at the moment. I want to get it down, because I'd love the idea of concept art, of creating landscapes, because I would love to learn about Dungeons and Dragons, because I love the idea of storytelling with my children and taking them on adventures away from the computer.
And that's the great thing about art. Art is telling stories. Every time you draw a picture, you're telling a story.
Exactly. I want to inspire that. I want to be able to, because what I've seen is people take photos and they amalgamate them together to create this fantasy landscapes, which are absolutely incredible. And I would love to inspire that imagination in my children to then go on an adventure and then draw it themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which would be
encouraging that in children to use their brains, that way.
Exactly.
Definitely.
We've had a question in from a Matt. It says, have you ever erased or deleted something only to instantly regret it? Not erase, not delete something, because you can Control Z and get it back. Ha ha ha. But I have learned to make sure that I've got auto save on, because in the past, when I've had a crash and lost a day's work, so I've been forgetting to save. That's been fun. So that's happened in the past. Oh, no.
Which is a nightmare, which is the sort of digital equivalent of knocking your ink bottle over onto a finished picture, which I've also done back in the day. So but generally, no. I mean, I try to incorporate mistakes as well. That's the other thing, and that comes in with the whole point with the Doodle A Day stuff as well. Was when I draw them, I don't do any pre-drawing. I go straight in with the ink, so that you're really thinking about every mark. And if you make a little mistake, you try and incorporate it in. I'm a great believer in incorporating mistakes into drawing, and that's a way of learning.
Yeah. I really need to learn how to do that. Where my scribbles are going all over here.
Yeah.
Right. Gary,
yes.
Would you be able to tell us about your Doodle A Day and how you've used it as a coping mechanism, and how you've expressed, how you've used it to express how you're feeling through?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, as I say, I started it as a drawing exercise for myself, and for about a year and a half, I was doing a drawing every day, just sort of drawing what happened that day and having a bit of fun with it and posting it on social media to the 500 or 600 friends or whatever that were following me on there. And then in October 2017, my wife died suddenly from sepsis. She was just 41, and our life changed completely overnight. And the day she died, that night when I went to go to bed, I thought, I need to do a drawing. So all I could draw that day was a broken heart. But every night I still carried on drawing, and found that I was using it as a way to process the grief and the journey that was on as a widower navigating grief, but also as a single parent suddenly bringing up children. And using the doodles became a way for me to process that. And it got noticed on social media, picked up by the press, and it all went a bit nuts. And now I've got this sort of massive worldwide following, which is bizarre and wonderful. But what came back very quickly was that people were seeing themselves in there and realizing they weren't alone, and that I was expressing in pictures something they couldn't put into words. And so I realized it was a valuable thing to be doing. So I've carried on doing it for myself mainly, but knowing it helps other people too. So it was a really important process, and you can go from the funny to the profound. I mean, for me, one of the things that was difficult was trying to explain to people what grief feels like. So I came up with this idea of the grief demon, which is like an anthropomorphism of the feeling of grief, and how when it starts, it's around you with its hand in your chest. And I started drawing the grief demon every now and then. And as my relationship changed with my grief, I could change my relationship with the demon as an image. So that became one example. And sometimes you just be feeling a deep feeling when after my wife died, when we had the ceremony in the woods to sort of say farewell, and I sort of could send her off on her journey, and you could do a very soft, gentle drawing that would just sort of let that feeling go, you know. And then the other thing that people sometimes feel guilty about is, you know, when you're grieving, you know, not every day is about grief. Funny things still happen in your life, and I wanted to memorialize that as well. So as an older single parent, I wanted to keep fit for my kids, you know. So I got into, as I know you have, doing a bit of yoga and stuff. And I'd go to yoga classes, and suddenly you find yourself discovering all sorts of interesting things about what yoga does to your body. And being in a room full of beautiful women clad in lycra trying not to fart. It's just, and you think, I've got to write that down, because that's the thing, you know. And that's something to look back on, to remember that this journey that I was on, that had its ups and its downs, you know.
Yeah, I completely empathise with that. I was in Headley Court for 1.5 years doing intensive physiotherapy, and yoga was part of it. And it's funny how we all share, you know, nobody talks about it, but we all shared a similar thing where you're doing it. It's like, yeah, please don't. I think you're doing downward dog.
Yeah, downward facing dog.
Please, no, don't do it.
But child pose. You do the child pose, and you go down into that sort of. Everything gets pushed everywhere. Yeah.
So exactly, everybody experiences that, but nobody talks about it. And it's amazing how you can. Obviously, you can share that with everyone else. Everybody goes, "Oh my God!"
And that's the great thing with the doodles. You know, I post a picture like that, and the amount of comments that come back from people saying, "Yeah, that's me. Oh, I know that. Oh, yeah, the pain is real." You know, even from yoga teachers, and so it's brilliant. You just get this dialogue, and it's wonderful. You know.
Yeah. Oh, mate. So yeah, exactly. So you've progressed, as you said, from dealing with grief, so you can deal with the difficult side of it, and obviously take it into trying to make a positive out of it in the future with your dealings.
I call it positive grieving as well. I try to find the positive in my loss as well, you know. And I mean, I've been lucky, I've had this that's helped me realize it, but you know, I came to think very quickly about the fact, you know, Joy and I had 19 years together, and then she was cruelly taken away from me by fate. But what I look back on is not that moment, it's the 19 years that led up to that, and say, how lucky was I to have that? And I kind of celebrate her, and she sort of lives on through the drawings as well, because I feel her, you know, what she would say in any situation, and I put that into the drawings as well. I include her still in there as a memory, and so that's a positive that you can do as well. And my kids, we look at it, we talk about her every day, and they've become to look at it positively as well, you know.
You've managed to help thousands of people throughout the world to deal with bereavement through it. So it's been incredible. Should we show the video that you created called? Oh
yeah, it was the One Show. Yeah, the One Show asked it to come on and do a little film about it. So I did this film that was based on the style of the Doodles, and it's called For Joy, and we did it for that. So
fantastic. But yeah, if we could show. Thank you very much for that, Gary, mate. Through my military service, I personally I've struggled with my emotions, especially with showing them, and with that, I have to admit, every time I've seen that video, I struggle not to break down. It's an incredible video that obviously about grief, but also about hope as well towards the end.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the thing. I said to my children, when Joy died, I said to them, look, I didn't do that stiff upper lip thing. I said, I am going to be crying. We're in this together. You can talk to me about anything. You can always cry in front of me because I'm going to cry in front of you. And that openness from the start, I think, is what's helped us all. So being able to talk about this sort of thing, which is so taboo in our society, really, to be able to sort of open up and talk and have this medium through which I can it helps me, but if it helps other people as well, that just it's a memorial to Joy. It makes her death less pointless if we can help other people through this. So thank you.
Thank you. Talking about a memorial to Joy, actually, is that you've released your Doodle a Day book.
Yes.
Called Finding Joy Here, which I would highly recommend for everybody to go out and get. It's very very reasonably priced on Amazon. I believe we've got a link to it down below. And I again, I didn't let my wife see it, but I was in tears as well. But it's such an incredible book full of of life's ups and downs that a lot of us go through, and it's nice to be able to know that somebody else can empathize and with you. But
thank you. Yeah, I wanted to show the truth of the journey, that although there are sad bits, there are also positives, and there is light at the end of that journey. That you are, it's a journey, and you're heading towards the other side of this horrible tangled forest that is grief, and you're working your way through it, and there's difficult bits and easy bits, and in the end, hopefully the book is kind of positive and uplifting and just saying, look, guys, stick with it. Things do get better, as you yourself are an example of that through what you've been through. And so
thank you, mate.
Yeah,
I've run out of time, unfortunately, but I've got one more question from Sarah saying, what do your children think about your drawings?
Oh, well, I mean, they've been brought up with it, so for them it's kind of like that's what Dad does, but actually, I mean, things like the doodles and stuff like that, my daughter especially loves to get the old books down off the shelf and flip through them, because it's memories of Mum and it's memories of our journey, so they love it, and they like seeing that the funny things they've done immortalized in there. I don't know if they're growing more like their drawings or their drawings are growing more like them, but people do recognize them from the cartoon. They love it, and they love the fact that and I sometimes go into the schools and do workshops and stuff as well, so there's a mixture of proud and faintly embarrassed, which I think is a dad's job, really.
I've through your book, I've learned how incredibly brave Lily is, and what an amazingly funny character Ben is.
I'm very lucky.
Been learning about them, so
great kids.
But it's incredible. But I just want to say thank you very, very much from the bottom of my heart, Gary, for our chat today. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and I hope that in the future, once all the lockdown restrictions have gone, that I'll be able to come up, because I don't live too far away from you, with a crate of beer, and you can tell me all about Shakespeare. Teach me. I would absolutely love that if that was possible.
We'll sit and do sonnets over a pint. That sounds perfect.
I'm well and truly up for that. That would be amazing. I also want to say thank you very much to all of you beautiful people that have taken your time out of your day to come and join us today and send us your questions. I'm really sorry if I didn't get to ask them all. But fingers crossed, I'll have a chat with Gary in the future, and then I could feed them onto you later. I want to let you guys know that. Sorry, I did not expect that one. It's on silent. I just wanted to quickly promote that next week on Wednesday, the 17th at 11 a.m, you need to tune in to watch Sarah Howarth talk to the amazing Alison Steadman. Now, Alison Steadman, you would know from Pride and Prejudice, Boomers, and the incredibly funny Pamela from Gavin and Stacey. You have to tune in. It cannot be missed. Now, thank you very much, everybody. You take care, and goodbye for now.